Welcome to In Progress, a podcast to help you grow and learn how to become a better version of yourself. Now, here's your host, Michael Cirigliano.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of In Progress. I'm your host, Michael Cirigliano, with special guest Fabian Bischof. How are you doing, Fabian?
I'm doing great. How are you, Michael?
Fantastic. Me and we were just talking about how I just went on a trip to Italy. I was supposed to go see him in Austria, and the culture difference between here and America, absolutely insane.
That's one thing I wanted to ask you on camera. I purposely didn't ask you beforehand. What's it like now that you've been to Italy for a pretty long time, now being back home again?
Well, I liked Italy. I liked Italy a lot. But what I realized is a lot of people say, they'd move to Italy and this and that. Mm-hmm. I don't think I can ever live anywhere besides America, being so used to, like I was telling you, the amenities, just like the ease of everything, the money here, money's easier to get here. Jobs are easier to get. You can become wealthier here easier. Everyone that I saw in Italy was kind of living a very simplistic lifestyle, which is great, but without the option to do the other side of it, So for me, it was like, I love it here. Everything's cheaper. The lifestyle is great. It's relaxed, but I feel like they kind of move in slow motion there compared to America, where it's always like hustle and bustle. So it's great for a vacation, definitely great for a vacation. But I don't think now being there for a month that I could ever live in Italy.
I see your point, yeah. But that's the charm of Italy, the relaxed, everything is bella, everything is, you know what I mean, right? Italians are so touchy and so passionate, and if they get furious, they get really furious. But on the other hand, if they are in a good mood, they are really in a good mood, and they know how to enjoy life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're very passionate about whatever they're doing, however they're feeling. It's very passion driven, which is great. Like, that's not something that you really get here much. It's kind of, I feel like in America, everyone's kind of neutral. No one really has those different levels. Whereas in Italy, it's like, if you're having a party or if you're celebrating something, everyone's just enjoying it, loving it. And then if something bad had, I went there right after Italy didn't qualify for the World Cup.
They go crazy with football, right?
Oh my God. Yeah, insane. My brother has a hand tattoo of the Italian national team logo on his hand. So people would see that and they'd be like, oh, porca miseria. And they would just get pissed and start talking about how Italy didn't make the World Cup and they won the Euro and this and that. And they were so passionate about it. And it's not a normal thing here to be like that. Like me, I was pissed they didn't make it. But over there, it's like, we can't talk about this. This is too much to handle right now. And they would you'd see the emotion going. And I was just like, it's crazy. It's literally like a huge deal over there. Huge. Like, that's their livelihood, is the Italian national team, soccer.
I cannot really go too much into that because I don't have passion for soccer at all. Mm-hmm. Like anything related to ball games, ball sports, or team sports in general, nah, that's not me.
No, just the MMA?
Yeah, just athletics in general, but more. I like calisthenics. I like gymnastics. Uh-huh. But I'm not really good with playing ball games. I don't have the necessary coordination for that. I don't know.
No, that makes sense. It takes a special kind of.
Yeah, in school I was always the kid that was voted at last.
So how was it for you? Because I never asked you. You going to America and going back to Austria. How do you feel about that? Would you live in America, or is there something about America that you didn't really see yourself living in America because of?
So obviously the social system in America is rough. Yeah. See, the big shock for me, I was in San Francisco. That was my first stop. And we were living, I don't know if you're familiar with it, we were living in the Tenderloin, or right at the outskirts. That's like the area where the homeless people are.
Yes.
And I can tell you, I had a culture shock.
Oh my God.
Big time. We don't, where I'm from, we don't have homeless people, like maybe one or two and here and there, but it's not like a thing.
Yeah.
In Vienna, yes, okay, but here in the western side of Austria, no. It's too small. No, not really. Maybe one or two, but we have governmental organizations that help them, or government housing that backs that up a little bit, so they don't really sleep on the streets.
But you also have to realize too, you only went, like, even me coming from where I live now, where I was living before I was in Austin, because I was living in Austin, that's where I met you. Me being here, the homeless population here is almost non-existent. Like, if you go around like downtown, which is where homeless people typically stay, you can maybe see 2, 3. I think there's like 3 homeless people that like I will regularly see when I go downtown. They stay in the same places, they sleep in the same places. But in Austin, it was literally, they were all, I don't know if you noticed that, but they were all over in Austin. Like, even
Austin, sorry that I interrupted you. No, but Austin is still a joke compared to San Francisco.
Oh, I heard California's homeless population is insane.
Off the charts.
Yeah, it's all over the place. They sleep outside on the benches, on the beach, everywhere. In Austin, it was more, the only thing that was weird to me, because Austin does have a pretty high homeless population, because a lot of them moved from California to Austin because the cost of living at the time was lower. Now the cost of living is fairly similar to California. But where I worked at the AT&T over in Austin, right on the outskirts of Austin, kind of. And there was a homeless guy that slept not like right outside my store. So his sleeping bag was right outside the store. And I'm not used to that at all.
No, me neither. And when I arrived there, the first week was rough. Like, seeing people on the streets in the middle of the day smoking crack or whatever it was, I'm not used to that. Hey,
yeah,
I don't know if I can say that on camera. Maybe I have to censor that. But I saw people taking a shit on the streets.
Oh yeah. That's why, like, California is, for like, right, in movies, California's pictured to be this, like, it's depicted as this beautiful land of opportunity and beautiful people and this and that. It's like, it's only like that in like Hollywood, Los Angeles, some certain parts, but overall, that's all they focus on, is those parts. When you go to the outskirts, like, California has a huge crime rate. Their murder rate is off the charts. Homeless, off the charts. Like, California is actually struggling hard, but in the movies, you watch an American movie about someone in California, and they're surfing on the beach and they're driving along Malibu and it looks beautiful and everything's gorgeous, and it's like, not like that.
And California is that part too. Back to your question, if I could imagine living in America, I could definitely see myself living in San Diego for some time.
Really?
I loved it. I loved San Diego, really. And I also loved Austin. I could also see myself living in Austin. I mean, Texas barbecue in itself is a reason to move there.
Oh my God. Yeah. I never, when I'm in New York now, I never liked barbecue. I never liked it. I always said it's the most disgusting thing. I don't get why Americans like barbecue so much. I went to Austin and I had it and I was like, oh,
that's why.
Now I get it.
That's why. Yeah.
Different.
I could see myself doing that, but since I am accustomed to the high or to the good social system we have in Austria, I could never move to America if I'm not financially stable.
Yeah, you have to.
Because if you take if they catch you slipping and you lose your job or whatever, you're on the streets like that.
Yes.
Doesn't happen here.
No, I mean, it's also state dependent. Texas and California are very bad with their unemployment. I mean, very bad. It depends on how you look at it. In New York, our unemployment system is it favors the unemployed so much that if you're unemployed, you can potentially be making as much as somebody who has a job.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But
There's no incentive to work at that point.
no, that's not good at all.
No, there's
That's
got to
the
be an
other
in
extreme.
between.
Yeah. You have to be, there has to be something that helps you if you're unemployed, because things can go sideways and you lose your job. Like I went through that. I started a new job and I had to quit after a month, unfortunately.
You had to quit.
Yeah, something happened. I don't want to get too deep into it, but something happened that I couldn't tolerate. So yeah, unfortunate circumstances, and that stuff happens. So I think it's important. It's really important that there's a system in place that supports you if you lose your job due to circumstances or whatever, or your company closes. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. You never know.
Without a job as well. So, but yeah, I could imagine to live over there. But what I wanted to get into as well with your question, how it was to come back, I had a hard time the first few weeks when I came back. I really had. Yeah, because first of all, it was winter here in Austria. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I came back January, and then the whole political situation, everything was basically shut down. There was nothing you could do. That was pretty rough because I was in Texas before. Yeah. I was free like a bird. And just the small-mindedness of certain people here. You literally feel that.
Oh, 100%.
You literally feel that. And when I had to describe it, because I was 3 months, I was on my own. I was living without anybody telling me what to do and what to think and what to say and what to wear and etc. etc. And when I came back, and just this subconscious, how do I say it? Those subconscious restrictions from other people, or those opinions, how you should behave, how you should act, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It felt like I put on a shoe that was 3 sizes too small for me.
Yes.
You know,
absolutely.
It was fitting 10 years ago, but now it's not working. I was literally, I like the ceiling fell to my head.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's something that another thing that I recognize, me and my brother recognized when we were in Italy, is the open-mindedness in, I don't know if it's all of Europe, but it was in Italy, and you're saying it's in Austria too, where...
No, it's the opposite. In Austria, it's in Austria, it was this small-mindedness.
Yeah, and in Italy, it was the same way, which you wouldn't think, Italy being a, free, more free, liberal kind of whatever. But yeah, we go like even to the point of like how you're supposed to act, right? Like in America, if you like, we went out to the bar and we're talking and there's music playing and we're drinking and we're joking around and being loud and having a good time. When I went to bars in Italy, like people would just kind of like sit there, look around, talk to some friends, kind of quiet. And like me and my brother, we're more out there. Like, if we hear music, we'll dance. If we see someone we don't know, we'll go up and talk to them. Yeah. And in Italy, it was like they would look at us weird. Like I remember we were in a small town where my family is from, and me and my brother, the music was playing, and we're just dancing to the music, whatever. And the people were like looking at us, and we would like talk to someone that we didn't know who they were, but we were with our cousins, so we're like, it's a small town, maybe everyone knows each other. We talk to them, and they're like, oh, how are you doing tonight? And they're just like, good. Yeah, I remember one time it was crazy. My brother went up to somebody and goes, hey, he was skateboarding, and he goes, hey, I like the way you're skateboarding. What's your name? And he goes, why? And my brother looked at me. He's like, did I say that right? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, oh, I like the way you skateboard. I want to know your name. He's like, for what? And he stuck with it. He didn't move from it. He was like, for what? And then my brother's like, no, I just like the way you're skateboarding. He's like, who are you? We were like, what the hell? And
He was almost offended.
Yeah, I was like, dude, he literally said, hey, I like the way you're skateboarding. What's your name? And he's like, no, nope.
Not happening.
No. And it's like in America, it's like, if you go up to someone you don't know, you could talk to them and you can have a full-blown conversation.
I had like literal hour-long conversations with random strangers on the street.
Absolutely. That's normal.
Legit. Yeah, that's completely normal. And that was something I had to get adjusted to because Austrians are not that way.
Yeah.
Usually. A story I like to tell or share all the time, when I was in Texas, when I met you and Mia, a few days after that was New Year's Eve, right? I went to the one bar we met in. I went there by myself, and I sat at the bar and had a drink. And I was in my head, I was like, okay, I'll have this drink and then I'll go home.
Yeah.
Right. And there was this one guy staring at me the whole time. In my head, I was thinking, why? What does he want from me, right?
Yeah.
I was literally getting a bit offended, just a little bit. And then he came over and asked me if I was alone. And I was like, yeah, why? My friends are over there and we have another English person there who's also here by himself, if I want to join them. And then I went over there, had a drink with them, and I stuck with them the whole evening. And that's something that doesn't happen here.
Yeah.
Or it never happened to me.
Yeah, exactly. Is that like, so is the cultural norm in, I want to say Europe, but we could just stick with Austria because you could speak for Austria. Is the cultural norm to kind of like stick to who you know and what you know and not like venture out of that?
Where I'm from, yes. I cannot speak for the whole country because I'm more in the western side. Yeah. And people are really reserved. As you said, everything is surrounded by mountains, right? And maybe that contributes to that closed circle.
Yeah, exactly. It's
like
just
you're surrounded by mountains. You never see beyond that. Your horizon is limited, and so is your group. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. You're limited both physically. You're actually geographically limited and mentally limited.
Yeah, like outside, it's on the inside. But who knows?
Right.
And I cannot speak for everybody, obviously. Maybe there are people that are super open and extroverted and like to meet new people and all the good things, but it's not the norm.
No, not at all.
And if you go out here, it's very much see and be seen.
How so?
How do I describe that? People take themselves too seriously oftentimes. And if you go to a club, you see a lot of people just standing there and looking all mean and serious and wearing Gucci and whatever, just showing off. I'm here, I'm important, I wear this, I wear that, I have this watch and those sneakers, and that makes me, I don't know. And it's super hard to escape that because you fall into those patterns as well. Absolutely. Like you mentioned in your episode with Pat, with the sneakers, with the Jordans. Yeah. All of a sudden you're in that pattern as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I feel like that has a lot to do with, it was, we were talking about Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. Yes. I'm not sure, have you read that book?
Yes.
So it was, I say that's more ego than anything else. It's you want to be cool and you want other people to think you're cool. So you do these things that other people do, whether that's congruent to who you are or not. So like there are people that'll, like in America, they're called hype beasts. That's what it's called here. Yeah. And it's basically people that buy Supreme, the Jordans, the Nikes, the Adidas, the Balenciaga. And they spend all this money to look cool. Whole time they're miserable. They're on social media looking like they're cool, and they're miserable. They don't like anything about what they're doing, but they portray this persona of this cool person who like has all these things, and it's all related back to things. It's not, are you happy with who you are or what you're doing? It's, do you have the things that are socially acceptable or socially valued, whether that's something you want or not? And that's how America is in general. And I guess in your town too, it's the same thing. And it's all ego driven.
It is. And so I grew up in a really, really small town. And when you know everybody, it's obviously important what other people think of you, right? Or that's, at least that's the way how I was raised. Yeah. I was raised to care what other people think and always behave nicely and behave in a correct manner, because what could the neighbors think, right?
Yes, always.
I think they have a term in America, keeping up with the Joneses. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. And
I mean, who gives a shit?
No, absolutely.
To be honest. Yeah, to be honest, who gives a shit? I have this concept. I don't know if I talked about it on the first episode we did. If I do, I apologize.
Oh, you're good.
You meet like millions of people or thousands of people during your lifetime, right? Mm-hmm. We could say that. And some of them get really close to you. Some of them you even consider family, like your parents, your sisters, brothers, or even some friends that become family. Yeah. To some of them, you even have a deeper relationship. You marry them or live with them in the same household. Yeah. And all this time, there's only one person that really stays with you, because all those people, family, friends, relationships, blah, 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 they can be gone tomorrow. Yeah. They can be gone in an instant, like in a matter of seconds, either because they decide they don't want to spend time with you anymore, you're not good for them anymore, or they have a shift in minds or whatever, or even they pass away. That's also possible. Yeah. And the only person that really sticks with you the whole time is that one dude or a girl that stares back from the mirror. That's the only person that really is there all the time. That's there when you have your highest of highs, and that person is also there when you're at your lowest of lows. Absolutely. And yeah, the relationship you cultivate with that person determines how your life is going to be to a big extent. If you have a good relationship with that person, the sky's the limit. If that person looking back from the mirror is your friend, everything is possible, because that person will always have your back. And that person will always find a way to make the best out of things. Yeah. And you're never alone. You always have that person you can rely on. But on the other hand, if you're being rude to that person in a way that you're not being honest with them, or portraying something that's not true for that person. So if you behave in a way that's not true to your authentic self, that person notices. Everybody else might fall into the trap and believe you, but this person will notice for sure. Yeah. And that has effects on your relationship. I mean, how would you feel if your best friend started talking bad about you behind your back? You wouldn't like that. No. Right? Exactly. And if he hit a low spot, maybe you would say, okay, no, you did this and this and this. Now see how you go along. You don't need my help. Exactly. And that the person staring back from the mirror does the same thing. Maybe you hit a low and that person's not there anymore. You're on your own. Or maybe that person even caused that low, you being at that low spot. Yeah. No, that's that's honestly like a lot of people fall into that trap, like you were saying, where it's you're not congruent with who you are. You don't actually resonate with who you are as a person because you're trying to portray something else. There's a lot of people here that I know that I'm even friends with, where it's more so, what is everybody else going to think of this thing? How am I supposed to live my life so other people can think that I'm happy, can think that I'm cool?
whole time, their values are complete opposite. I've had conversations with people who their values, because like, you know, with me and you, we've had deep conversations. So I enjoy those deeper conversations. And I talk to people and I'm like, you know, what do you value? What is it that you want in your future? And they're like, you know, I want a regular house with a nice family. I want to have a pool, a nice paying job. And then the life they're portraying, or the life that their family portrays and puts onto them, is this materialistic, you know, the boats, the nice cars, the big houses, the trips all the time to different places. And then you have to post it on social media so other people can see that you went on this trip, because you're not taking the trip for yourself. They're out on the clubs and the bars on the phone all the time so other people can see, oh, wow, they're having a good time. They must be cool. And it's like, that's not what you want. And maybe what you want isn't what everyone thinks is cool. But at the end of the day, when you're 40, 50, 60, are you still going to be doing this? At some point, it's going to stop. At some point, you're not going to have the energy to continue chasing this validation from other people. And then you're stuck with the person that you never got to know, which is yourself. And now you have to build from the ground up at 40, 50, 60 to try and be congruent with yourself again. And that's where misery sets in. And that's where the people, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen those deathbed confessions where people are on their deathbed. Oh, what do you regret? And it's, you know, they have a list of things they regret that they never did. And it's because you're living for other people. You're not living for yourself. You're living to look cool to other people. And now you're 35, you're single, or you're with someone you don't like just because you're trying to portray this thing, and you have nothing left. You have nothing left.
And oftentimes it's not even about pleasing other people or looking cool. That's the better term. Not even about looking cool, but just pleasing your parents. That's a big part. Or doing something that fits into the stigma of what you should do, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to escape that. It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
For some people. For some people, it's pretty easy. For me, it was really hard. But
escaping your parent, like doing what your parents want?
No, not so much the parents, but because they always supported me pretty well, but subconsciously, obviously, you fall into those traps.
Yeah.
And just getting conscious with when I am behaving in a way, or when I do things that are not really true to me, but true to what other people taught me.
Yeah.
That's the next thing. Why do you want to pursue that? Even if you think it's because of your authentic self, is it really true? Or is it just something that you picked up on the way from another person?
Exactly. And that, yeah, I mean, that's hard to do though. You know, when you, like how you say, you know, you're raised by your parents to have a, you know, at a certain standard, whatever that is, you're raised by your parents and that they mold you. And then you have friends in elementary school, middle school, high school, that you fall into that group and they mold you. And I was talking about this with somebody the other day. Childhood trauma is a thing. It's a real thing. You're molded as a child, and you have to break those shackles, which I just recently started doing. I started really deep diving into my childhood. Why do I act a certain way? You too? Oh, nice. Yeah. Perfect. So we're on the same page. I was talking to somebody about my birthday. My birthday was a week or two ago. And
congratulations.
Thank you. And I was talking to them about how I don't care about my birthday. And they were like, it's my girlfriend that I was talking to. And she was like, why? That's a big deal. That's a big deal that you were born. It's your birthday. And for me, I was like, I don't care about it. I never did. And then I looked back and I was like, my dad never cared about his birthday. My mom never cared about her birthday. So birthdays were never really a big deal because of that. And then in school, I had the friend group because my parents are more introverted. They don't really socialize too much. So my friend groups were all introverted. And because of that, I didn't have the big friend groups. So when there were kids that were having the parties for their birthdays, I was like, that's not me. That's not who I am. And then as the years went on, I started like seeing people having fun on their birthdays. And I was like, I want to do that, but that's not that. I don't see why that's a thing. And because of that, I missed out on. I'm 20. I just turned 28. I missed out on. I graduated high school 10 years ago, and in high school, so we'll say 14 years. I'll say 14 years I can genuinely remember that I haven't celebrated a birthday, even though I wanted to, because I didn't see it was important, and I didn't want to burden other people with my birthday. I didn't think that my birthday was important. I'd go out for other people's birthdays, but my birthday didn't matter. I don't matter. Theirs did. And I had to really look at, I'm like, damn, that's really from like back then, like back in the day. And it's just like a small example like that could like really snowball into this big thing that sculpts who you are 20 years later.
And oftentimes you don't even realize. That's the crazy thing. You go, like you said, you go on with your life for 28 years and you never even realized that you're manipulating yourself in that manner.
Yes.
And it takes a whole lot of reflection to even spot those patterns, to even see them, to get a grasp on them. And then obviously doing the work is also a lot of effort, but absolutely realizing where you're being, or where you're manipulating yourself, that's the big thing. I read a book. Exactly. I read a book. I don't know if it's translated in English as well. The child in you has to find home would be the English translation. It's written by a psychologist, and it's the whole inner child thing is described really, really good. And in my opinion, if every young adult would read that fucking book, it would solve a lot of cultural problems or society problems.
Absolutely. That's the main thing. I listen to a lot of podcasts and videos and on people that talk about psychology and sociology, and there's always that root cause of the childhood trauma, right? You're sculpted as a child to when you're like 5, if you do something wrong and your parents yell at you for it, or you get in trouble for it, in your mind, that's like, oh, I can't do that anymore. I have to stop. They don't care about me. And that literally stops it right then. You get bullied in school or made fun of in school. You reserve yourself more. You're like, the less that I say, the less that I do, the less that I'm out there, the less I get made fun of. And that sculpts you to be, for myself, it took me, I was introverted. Like, I wouldn't talk to anyone. I didn't like talking to people. I didn't go out. I didn't do any of that. It took me, I was 24, I think, when I started really diving into this kind of stuff. And I realized that me being introverted, me being shy, me not wanting to talk to people, that all stems from different scenarios, different events that happened in my childhood that sculpted me to be this way. And now, I'm 28. What's your excuse? You at some point you have to take the reins. You have to take the fucking steering wheel and steer your own life. You can't keep saying, oh, it's just who I am. Like, no, you can be whoever you want.
Exactly. You're not responsible. I mentioned this in the previous episode. I remember you're not responsible for how you've been raised or how you've been conditioned, but you're fucking responsible for if you want to keep going with that programming. And absolutely. I don't know if you know Tony Robbins.
Oh, of course.
Good. He writes in his book that everything we do out of one of two reasons: either gaining joy or avoiding discomfort. Something like that. Avoiding pain, gaining joy or avoiding pain. And with every event in your life, especially in childhood, because there's nothing there. There are no connections. You're a blank sheet, a blank paper. And with everything that happens, you make a connection of either joy or pain. So for example, you're hungry and you cry, and your mom sees that, comes to you and feeds you. That's the first positive connection. Crying, food. And then you explore the kitchen. You go around, you make your way and find your way onto the kitchen cooking field. And you see those plates and you think, oh, what's that? And you put your hand onto that plate and you burn yourself because the thing is hot. And that's the first negative association. That plate is connected to pain now, right? And you go through your life, and at some point the major wiring process is done. You're at a point where your brain is wired, and that's a big part of who you are now. And if you never address those connections and those scenarios, like you said, that happened in your childhood, they will alter your way of behaving the whole time. And it's a shame. It's a pity.
You said that you recently were doing some diving into your childhood too.
A lot.
A lot? Recently?
Yes. Well, it all started when I came back.
Okay. What prompted that? Was it just the difference between America and Austria, or did something happen?
No, yeah, something happened. Let's put it that way. Okay. I don't want to share too much.
Yeah.
Something happened in my family, and that shattered off some dust. And my mother and I had to have some conversations about a lot of things. And just me, for myself, I had a lot of, like you said, with being bullied in school and all that stuff. I just had a lot of situations in myself I had to make peace with. It's just the way it is now. You're not 10 years old anymore. It's not that time anymore. You just have to accept that that's a part of your story, and that's not good or bad. I heard you talk with Pat on your episode about that mass shooting, that it's not good or bad. And it's the same here. It happened. So it's just the way it is. It's not good or bad. I mean, obviously you could put those labels on those situations, but that would just create a weight for you.
Yes.
If you remove the judgment of good or bad, you also remove the weight. It's just a situation. And it's just the way you came here to be that person that you are right now. And if you have a healthy relationship with the guy in the mirror, you're at peace with that weight because you like the person that stares back.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And why should you then put a bad label on a situation that happened 20 years ago?
Right.
And still manipulate yourself with that, and still weigh you down, and still hurt yourself in a way. Makes no sense.
It doesn't do you any good anymore.
No, not at all. It's just some things you just have to accept, to let them go. You cannot change them anyways. You cannot change them. Some things happen, although they shouldn't happen, like those mass shootings. They shouldn't happen, but they happened, and you cannot do anything more than just accept them.
Right.
And now I'm coming to a point that I wanted to talk to you about. We talked a lot about Stoicism the last time I was on here, and I didn't get the chance back then to talk about the second principle that's really a key component, in my opinion, Amor Fati. Basically means love your fate. And that's just the point of what you can relate that to the whole thing that I was just talking about, right? You have your way, and you never know if a situation is good or bad. You never know it in the first place. It's just we feel emotions and we tend to judge them pretty quickly. And just a few weeks later, we would realize, oh boy, maybe that was a blessing in disguise. Like me using my job, right? That I told you about. It was horrible at first. That's why I delayed the episode we do today, because I was just mentally not in a place where I wanted to talk on a camera. It was a lot for me. to go through. Besides that, just overall, the last few weeks were rough, but it doesn't really matter anymore, because this process of going through these rough times, which in retrospect aren't really that rough, but especially if you compare it to somebody who really has a difficult time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It could be so much worse.
Yeah.
But anyways, those rough times, they brought me to where I'm now. They brought me to a new job. They brought me to a new way of thinking, and they opened a few doors that were closed before. So was it really bad? Were those times really bad? I don't know.
It doesn't sound like it. In retrospect, it doesn't sound like it.
No, it's maybe because let me put it on. Let me put it this way: just because it's hard at the moment doesn't mean that the outcome's not worth it.
Right. Exactly. That's typically when it's most worth it, is when it's difficult in the moment.
And we need those difficult times. We need them. It's not about erasing the difficult emotions or making it easier. No, we need that. We need the difficult times and the hardships to grow stronger and to really make something happen out of those emotions. They are like fuel. If you take how's the thing called before it's a butterfly? Not in the cocoon, but before that, the caterpillar. When the caterpillar goes into its cocoon, allegedly, I heard this story. I don't know if it's really true, but there's the process happening. And if you see that, the kid sees the caterpillar in the cocoon and thinks, oh my God, a butterfly is being produced, right? Or created, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And the kid wants to help the little thing because it senses that it's exhausting for the caterpillar, for that it's in agony, and it opens the cocoon, and what it finds is a dead butterfly because the process wasn't completed. It didn't go through the whole process, and so through opening that cocoon, the child destroyed the animal. Yeah. And we are the same way. We need those processes, and nobody can help us, yes, but nobody can walk the walk through for us.
Exactly. We have to go through that process to come out on the other side.
Exactly. It's upon you to walk your walk.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a that's a conversation that I was having yesterday, actually, with myself with work. I'm in a position now, like a caterpillar, where I'm comfortable, I'm good, I'm doing very well. And I was having this conversation because there's the chance for me to move up. I was presented the chance for me to move up into a position where it's a lot tougher, a lot more responsibility. But at the other end of it, there's a lot more perks and benefits to it. And I was having this dilemma within myself where it was like, do I want to go that route? I'm comfortable right now. I'm a caterpillar right now. I'm comfortable. I'm just, running around, eating the leaves. I'm loving it. But I have the opportunity to go through some tough times, some stress, some bullshit, for lack of better terms, where I'm going to be responsible for a lot more. I'm going to have a lot more on my plate. I'm going to have to do a lot more. But it could be worth it at the end. And that's a thing that people don't like to do. They don't like the discomfort. They don't want to go into the cocoon. They don't want to transform. They want to just stay, even though they know this isn't where I need to be, just because it's comfortable.
Yeah, and that's a lesson I had to learn the hard way as well, especially over the last few weeks and months, but throughout my entire life. When it's about, when I'm in situations like you are right now, how do you make those decisions? Do you make them with your head or with your heart or with your gut? How do you make those decisions?
Yeah. And typically, I think it's just whatever's more comfortable. So I want to say in my head, I know I shouldn't make the move, but there's a part of me that's like, no, don't move. You're good. you're good. But how do you grow? You know?
But now let me ask you this. Is this voice that says no, is it really just your inner bitch, for the lack of better terms, that wants to prevent you from growing? Or is it a voice inside you that knows, no, that's not the right move?
For this specific scenario, my inner bitch.
Then you know what you have to do.
Yeah. That's Jesus. That's tough. That's real.
It is. But I made those choices as well a few times, and I realized in retrospect, okay, maybe that little voice that I had was not just nervousness or whatever. It was a feeling inside me that wanted to warn me or tell me that it's not the right thing for me, and I had to learn it the hard way.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the tough thing too, is trying to decipher which one it is. It's not always as easy as you think. There's scenarios in my life where I feel as though it's a gut instinct, where it's like, you shouldn't be in this situation because there's signs saying that it's not good. But at the same time, is that just me being in a different situation that I'm not familiar with, where it's like, this could be beneficial, this could be great for you, but you just aren't familiar with this situation, so you don't know how to act, so you want to pull yourself away from it. You know, it's like you feel that you shouldn't be there or you shouldn't do this, but is it because you shouldn't, or is it because you're not used to it, so you don't know one way or another, and because you don't know, you don't want to take the chance?
Yeah, and that's really tricky to differentiate. It's really tricky. But yeah, that's a process, and with every experience, you get better at not judging, at observing those feelings and making choices with them, because of them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a process, and that process is never really done.
No, it's never done, because you're always going to encounter things that you've never encountered before. And you're going to have to continue doing that process until the day you die. It doesn't stop. And everyone wants to know it all. Everyone wants the easiest route, the most comfortable route. And you don't grow in those scenarios, taking the most comfortable route, knowing everything. You know, you have to go through those scenarios.
On the other hand, I look at it a little bit differently. Let's redefine the term comfortable. What is comfort? Is comfort really that concept we have of a path of no resistance? Or is actual comfort a path where the struggle is worth it?
Right now, most people, including myself, comfort is the path of no resistance.
You're right, yeah. But if you find, let me phrase it differently. What would you consider struggling? Working hard, working a lot, doing overtime, and all those things, right?
Yeah.
But you're doing that right now with your podcast.
Right.
Is that really a struggle? I don't think so.
No, I think really what it comes down to is the unknown. That's the hardest part, is doing things that going a path that you don't know the outcome, but you go anyway. That's the discomfort. Like for this, like the job, for example.
Yeah.
I don't know what the outcome is. I know that there's more money involved, but I don't know the work that it's involved. I don't know, or like with certain relationships, you don't know everything about certain people, but you go that path anyway because the outcome can be great. But the discomfort is not knowing.
This not knowing is always discomfort, always. Yes. But if you find meaning in what you're doing, or yeah, if you find a purpose in what you're doing, that's the better word, a purpose in what you're doing, then the difficult route gets easy. Because in my opinion, there is no easy way of life, of doing something or whatever. There is no easy way, because you deep down inside, you know what you have to do, and you know what you want to achieve, and you know how to get there, or at least
for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah. But and if you willingly or unwillingly sabotage yourself and don't go that way, that's the real hard way. That's the real hard way, because then the person inside that's looking back from the mirror is turning against you.
Yeah, exactly.
If you hang out on the easy way too much, then all of a sudden the person inside the mirror is turning their back to you, and then that's the real hard way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a growth mindset, which a lot of people, I mean, growth in and of itself, like you said, growth is not easy. No. But when you look at it, you know, when you zoom out from it, is it easier to stay where you are and never grow and never move and never take those chances? Or is it easier to at least have taken those chances and known what would come of it because you took those chances? Because like you said, if you never do take those chances, you will never know what could have been, and you will grow from it regardless.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you know which route you have to take. And it's the inner bitch saying, don't go.
Yeah, exactly. And if you look under the bed, in the most cases, you will realize the monster was never even there.
Yeah.
It was just your head. It was just your head.
How do you fight against that? Like, you personally, how do you get into your head and say, like, no, this is something I have to do. It's all in my head. How do you do that? Because it's not an easy thing to do.
It depends on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if I have to make impulsive decisions, I don't really have the time to think about that.
Right.
Then I'll just react. But if I catch myself in that pattern of thought, I try to remove myself from the situation. Mm-hmm. Not think about it too much, and clear my mind. Calm down. I'm a big nature guy. I like to be outside, go for a long walk, and that really calms me down. Also, sitting beside a river really calms me down.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't help, that mostly helps. Then working out. Mm-hmm. Nothing empties the mind like a hard workout session. Like Absolutely. Pedal to the metal for 1.5 hours. That calms you down, and then you can see clearly. Right. After that, you can really see clearly. Like, imagine your mind like a river. I have this example from the Tao Te Ching, the little book from Lao Tse. Anyways, your mind is like a river, and after a storm, after heavy rainfalls, everything is muddy, everything is dirty, and you cannot see to the bottom of the river, right?
Right.
But what happens after a few hours, after a few days, when the river cleans itself out and you don't do anything, you just wait, you let time pass and you let everything slow down, and all of a sudden the water is clear again. Mm-hmm. The mud settles and you can see to the bottom of the river. Mm-hmm. So it's just about being patient. It's about being still, not feeding into that whole downward spiral. Oh my God, what's gonna happen? And yada yada yada. And what's if he says this and she does that and everything collapses? No, just take a deep breath, sit down, relax, and then the solution will present itself more often than not.
Absolutely.
If you slow down, you can see.
Do you ever catch yourself in those downward spirals? Like, recently for myself, I've caught myself a couple times where I'm in my head, where I'm, like you think one thing and then that one thing leads to another thing and it's a nonstop pop, 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 pop. How do you catch yourself doing that? And if you do, how do you cut that? Because I feel like that's the hardest thing. Once you get into that mindset where you're in your head and you're thinking like, oh, well, this is here, so this can lead to this and this can lead to this, and it's all bad. You end up, you feel it. Your body literally just sinks into itself. How do you pull yourself from that?
Of course, I catch myself in those things. I think everybody does.
Mm-hmm.
But what works for me, working out.
Yeah.
We have a tradition. When you step onto the mats, you bow to the mat, and that's a symbolism for like everything that's outside of those of the mats. You leave that out there, and once you get off the mats, you bow again and you go back into the normal world, right?
Yeah.
Just that you can approach a few things like that. For example, if you do something creative, that can be mind emptying as well. Or just when you work out or go for a walk with the intention of not feeding into that spiral anymore, but just stopping the spiral. Like not even focusing on the spiral anymore, but more of accepting and letting go.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's the biggest thing I do to deal with such thinking patterns, is accept the situation that makes me think in that way.
How do you accept it? Because for me, when I do get into those downward spirals,
Mm-hmm.
I tend to, and it's a very unhealthy coping mechanism, but I detach. So
Mm-hmm.
like mentally and sometimes physically, I will remove myself from that scenario altogether instead of analyzing it and seeing it for what it is. I'll detach myself as a coping mechanism. So I just stop dealing with it altogether instead of
Could you
understanding.
give me an example that I have a better idea?
Like if something upsets me,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I get into that downward spiral where I'm like all negative, instead of dealing with it, instead of thinking about it and thinking through it and accepting it, I will just force myself. Like I'll put my focus on something else and
Mm-hmm.
try and avoid this thing. And then because I'm only avoiding it and not accepting it and realizing it, it comes back. Like say, for example, something gets me upset. I'll turn something on Netflix and I'll watch
Mm-hmm.
something, and that will completely pull my focus from it. But then every now and then it comes back in. And then when I'm driving to work, it'll come back in. And I'll notice that I'm not even focusing on the road anymore. I'm like, I just drove 20 minutes and I've been thinking about this thing that I've been avoiding.
Yeah. I catch myself in those scenarios as well, of course. But and depending on the topic or the issue, rather to say, it's easier to accept it, and sometimes it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
And if you find yourself in those situations where it's really, really hard to make peace with it, it just needs time. One of the Stoics once said, I think it was one of the Stoics, some philosopher said, time is the only thing. Damn it. Only time can heal what reason cannot. Only time can heal what reason cannot. Sometimes you have all the reasons not to be upset. Everything is logical and everything is rationally acceptable, and you know that you shouldn't be upset and you shouldn't feel bad, but you feel bad anyways.
Yeah.
And that's just a process you have to go through.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's, for myself, it comes from a place of control. Me as a person, I like my life, I love when I can control everything. And life is not like that, where you can control everything. You can't control everything. So in those scenarios where I can't control it, my mind goes crazy. And I'm just like, Like if it's yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know. If it's another person, you can't control another person. So then you're like thinking about all these different scenarios because you can't control it. And that's the hardest thing for me, I think.
It's funny that you mentioned this, because I was thinking about that over the last few weeks as well. And I came to the conclusion for myself that I have to look at life not as I'm in the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you are in a way, in a weird way, but then you're not.
Mm-hmm.
If you asked me when we met in Texas what I'm doing now, I would have given you an answer that's so far off from reality. And if you told me that I would be where I'm at right now, at the exact position that I'm in, doing what I do, and hanging out with who I hang out with, and all those things, that the whole package, I would have laughed at you.
Really, that different?
Yes, it came so different than I expected it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so right that it came that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I never saw that path that I'm on right now. And therefore, I try to see it like I'm not in the driver's seat. I'm the passenger, and somebody else is driving, or the car is on autopilot, and I just have recommendations where to drive.
Yeah.
Sometimes the driver is like, nope, we are not making that right turn. We are going left. And it turns out that the left turn is much more beautiful than the right turn would have been.
How did you find the path that you're on right now? How did that come about?
Yeah.
Like,
I was at a point, sorry?
Was it something that happened, or was it?
It was something that happened. I had a big argument with somebody, and that made me realize, like, okay, now I have to change something. And that's when I saw an opportunity, or when I was presented an opportunity, and I was like, okay, I have nothing to lose, or everything is better than where I'm at right now, so let's try it. And then I discovered, oh, hey, this is cool. I like that, you know? But for this to happen, I had to reach a point where I was like, nope, it's not gonna keep going like this. So something has to change. And for that, a lot of stuff had to come together to really create that sense of, now it's time.
Right. And did you, yeah, absolutely. Was it more of you like letting go? Like whatever comes is better than what this is, and you just kind of like let that go?
Yeah, it was a lot about letting go old ideas of how I am, or how I should be, and how I should go my way, and what I should do, and all that. It was a lot of letting. We talked about ego, right?
Yeah. And
it was a lot of letting go of my ego that says, no, you have to do this and this and this to be this and blah. You don't have to do shit to be something. You already are. And that's a big misconception. We always think we have to do this and this to become this and that. Why? You already are. Remove all that I have to become. No, you already are. Stop becoming and start being.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's again, back to the videos that I watch and the podcast. That's a big thing that they teach in that too. Everyone says, what is it? What was it? Was when. It's always when. I will be happy when. I will start talking to people when. I will be, this is when I will do it. And it's not that. It's not when. Like you can be happy now. You can go talk to people now. You are valuable now. And everyone has that whole like, oh, when I make $100,000 a year, that's when I'll be happy. That's when I'll be comfortable. And it's like, no, you can do that now. And setting that limit to yourself makes it so you just live however long it takes to reach that goal miserable. And then once you reach that goal, 9 times out of 10,
you're still miserable.
You're still miserable. Yeah, exactly. There's a guy that I watch. He talks about socializing, right? Socializing in business, relationships, all that stuff. And a lot of people say, I'll start socializing when I make $100,000 a year, because that's when I can afford to live the life that people want to be around. And then they get to that point and they don't know how to socialize and they don't think it's enough. And then they see people that are making 500,000, like, oh no, 500,000 is when I'll be able to do this. Yeah. And it's a non-stop cycle. And there's a saying where it's actually, it's something to the effect of, you're miserable, you're never more miserable than when you reach your goal and realize that nothing has changed. Mm-hmm. And that's because, like, you know, everyone's like, oh, I'll have the yacht, I'll have the nice car, and then I'll be happy. And then you get it and you're like, oh no, I'm the same miserable person I've been, just in a nice car and in a boat.
Of course, because you never learned how to be happy.
Exactly. And you can't be, because it's all based on material things.
Yeah. And funny that you talk about that, because I recently talked about this with another friend of mine. I have a similar example to the same principle. So many people talk to me about, oh, I want to come to your gym and start jiu-jitsu and look at it and try it out, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Like hundreds. Yeah, maybe not hundreds, but you get the point.
Yeah.
And if none of them actually showed up.
Yeah, of course.
It's just, and they all have the same excuse. No, I have to be more fit. I just have to get into better shape, and then I'll come by, right? Then I'll try it out. Why? Why get into better shape? The first few practices are gonna suck anyways.
Yeah, you're never gonna be in enough shape to be able to handle it anyway.
No, exactly. Either way, you're gonna go through the dirt. You're gonna go through. How do you say that? Go through the mud.
Go through the dirt. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to engage in that process anyway. So why wait another year?
Exactly.
Because that year could be valuable experience on your journey.
Right.
And that translates to every. Excuse me.
Without taking those chances, you'll literally never know.
Exactly, and that translates to every other aspect of this journey. Mm-hmm. If it's starting a podcast, or start socializing with people, or going on vacations alone, or I don't know, whatever it is, why not start now?
Exactly. And build up what you want to be now.
Exactly. In a year from now, you would wish that you had started now.
Exactly. And that's one thing you can't do. You can't go back and start earlier, but you can start now and continue.
It's really cliche to say that, but the first step is really the hardest, because like we said, the unknown, right? You never pursued that road, and it's like with the monster under the bed. You don't know what's awaiting you. And once you do that first step, once you make that first step and you start walking down that path, you realize, okay, it's just a new process, but it's the same life. It's not like I'm in a different dimension all of a sudden. No, it's just I'm doing different things, but I'm capable of doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So for the people watching this, if there was one thing that you wanted to like have them walk away from this video with that we talked about, what would it be? Because we talked about a lot.
Yeah, we talked about a lot. Let me think. Yeah, I would say be true to yourself. Be true to the person staring back from the mirror. I use that example a lot, and I feel like that's something that's really important for me in the last few weeks, or that was really important, or still is. So that's what I would give to other people or suggest them to. And it's so easy said, but it's easier said than done, obviously.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And for that, how would you recommend people figure that out? Because a lot of people live their lives through outside validation, so they don't really know who they are. How would you suggest somebody start to figure out what it is they want and what they like? How did you do it?
Connect with yourself. Sit, take a dark room, take a pillow, sit into that dark room, close your eyes, ask yourself the question, what? Am I on the right path, or what do I want? Ask yourself that question and then sit with it. Let it sink in. And maybe it takes practice for you to get an answer, or maybe you will get that answer pretty quickly. But somehow or another, if you ask that question often enough, you will get an answer. And maybe it will not be an easy one to swallow. Maybe.
Yeah. Most times probably not easy, because you have to realize that the person you've been isn't who you actually are.
Yeah. And Jordan Peterson actually talked about that on a podcast. He said, sit on your bed and at a quiet night and ask yourself, what is something that I know that I should fix, that I could fix, and that I would fix.
Mm-hmm.
And if you meditate on that, you will get an answer.
Absolutely.
But that's going to be a hard pill to swallow.
Always.
Because it means, it just means that you have to change something.
Mm-hmm. And that's never easy.
Oh, no.
I wanted to thank you for coming on the podcast today. Thank you
so much, Michael, for having me.
Absolutely. This was an amazing episode. And I'm glad we didn't plan anything out, because it definitely worked out. I
had a blast, yeah.
Absolutely. Anybody watching the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Any questions that you have for Fabian or myself, feel free to DM or comment that. I have him back again. He's full of knowledge, so he's just going to keep coming back. And thank you for watching.